Father Daniel Berrigan turned 80 this spring.
The Berrigan family, how about a round of applause? Thank you very much. Happy birthday, Dan.
Happy birthday, dear brother Dan.
Hundreds of social activists celebrated not only his long life, but his commitment to a ministry that combines work among the poor and dying with militant, nonviolent civil disobedience.
If you were to identify Catholic prophets in the 20th century, he'd be right there with Dorothy Day or Thomas Merton, perhaps, as one of the central figures.
Berrigan has been a powerful witness at the margins of both church and society.
Yes, and how many deaths will it take till he knows?
But critics think he too often steps over the line between criticism and an antagonism toward America. Conservative theologian and author Michael Novak.
They needed to protest with every fiber of their being against their own country, which they took to be particularly evil or complicitous in this evil. And I think that was wrong. I most strongly think that was wrong.
Berrigan's radicalism was formed by the Catholic worker movement, the ministry to the poor and homeless that grew out of the Depression. He marched in Selma in 1965 and was arrested at the Pentagon in a demonstration against the war in Vietnam in 1967. In 1968, Berrigan and his brother Philip, then also a priest, along with 7 others, burned draft records with homemade napalm in Catonsville, Maryland.
I could not do it. And I knew very clearly that that would be the end of a phase, a chapter of my life, and that life would never be the same again.
For the religious left, the Catonsville Nine, as they became known, sparked a wave of similar protests. After 18 months in federal prison, Berrigan committed his life to radical civil disobedience, protesting what he called American military imperialism.
I think we've opened up these grievous questions a little further as to whether or not Americans are allowed to kill the innocent.
Through his books, more than 50, Berrigan became a leading symbol of the radical edge of the Catholic left. A left that is small, but still active in a variety of causes. John Deere is a friend and fellow activist.
I think we live in a culture of violence. You have 1 billion people living in destitution. 60,000 children die of hunger every day, according to the United Nations. And then this whole litany of violence, from the death penalty to racism to various kinds of injustices. It's a real culture of violence, a world of violence.
For Deere and Berrigan, protesting violence is a way of life, most recently at the USS Intrepid War Museum in New York City. Between them, they have been arrested over 130 times. Chester Gillis, a historian at Georgetown University, says Berrigan and the movement he symbolizes have influenced the institutional church. He cited the U.S. Catholic bishop's 1983 criticism of American nuclear policy as an example.
I think the bishop's pastoral letter about war and nuclear war in particular was influenced by this community and groups like Pax Christi that have constantly been agitating for the church to be more of a peacemaker. Has he been heard? Oh, I think he's been profoundly influential.
Even critics believe the Catholic left may now be a permanent, although marginal, part of American church life.
I'd be surprised if it were dying away. It's certainly not dying away. And I'd be surprised even if it's dwindling.
Deere says the activists don't worry about their size.
Because Mother Teresa said the point is not so much to be successful, to really make a big difference, to be profoundly relevant, but to be faithful to the way of the gospel. And Dan once made this quip that a good peace movement starts out small and gets smaller.
For the Catholic left, the dozens of Catholic worker groups across the country that minister to the poor and hungry are major recruiting fields. Berrigan and Deere say they attract a new generation of young Catholic activists to the movement.
I think young people are hungering for the truth and for something else than that the culture is offering. When they learn about Dan or they hear about our work for peace and justice, they get very excited about it.
I feel a great deal of hope, not in the American culture as such, but in sort of what's going on under it all.
While best known for his anti-war protests, Berrigan is also widely respected as a poet and writer. His friends say his greatest contribution may be his ability to ground his political action in prayer and biblical study.
He's woven a very rich tapestry. This is not a singular dimension, a unidimensional person. When history does assess him, it'll assess him much more widely as simply the anti-war activist.
Who live and die in poverty and hunger.
Part of what they stand for, and beautifully so, is meditation on the gospel, on what needs to be done to make the gospels real among us.
It's rooted in prayer. It is done out of a commitment to the gospel. I mean, that differentiates it from all other secular movements.
For an end to the violence, that we might live life in all its fullness. Amen.
The movement which Berrigan helped shape may be nearly invisible to most Americans. But at 80, Berrigan is still writing, still leading retreats, still protesting, and still getting arrested. For Religion and Ethics NewsWeekly, I'm David Anderson.